Under Cambodian jungle, a stone city spans over 1,000 square kilometers. Its canals fed near 1 million. Yet by the 1400s its heart fell silent. How can mastery of water end in abandonment? In the north of today's Cambodia, sandstone towers rise above rice fields. They're the last sentinels of Angkor. Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom, the Bayon. Names cut into stone and into memory, they mark the core of a civilization that ruled for centuries. From the 9th to the 15th century, the Khmer built an empire. Its capital spread far beyond what eyes at ground level could see. Temples sat within a living city of roads, fields, ponds, and canals. We know this city through many voices. There are inscriptions in Sanskrit and Old Khmer. They record kings, gifts, taxes, and faith. There's a visitor's report from 1296 to 1297. Zhou Deguan, a Chinese envoy, watched markets and rituals. His notes show a capital that was busy, ordered, and proud. And there's the land itself. Berets and dikes hold the contour of ancient plans. LiDAR scans now strip the forest to reveal the grid below. Angkor's story is not only about art and stone, it is about water, power, belief, and risk. It is about how a megacity rose, and why its center went quiet. But the story does not end in ruins. Follow the clues carved in lintels and buried in silt. We will see how royal cult tied kings to gods and to place. We will walk the apogee of Angkor. Angkor Wat under Suryavarman II, Angkor Thom and the Bayon under Jayawarman VII. We will open the city with LiDAR. A metropolis over 1,000 square kilometers appears under the trees. We will test Angkor's great machine of water. It fed near 1 million, yet faltered in drought and storm. We will track a change in faith toward Theravada. Icons reworked, patronage reshaped, and structures of power bent. We will face pressure from Siamese neighbors. We will reach the year most often cited as a fall. And then watch the court move south, toward new trade. What broke the spine of a proven empire? The answer is not one blow. It is a chain. Before Angkor, there were seeds. Trade tied the delta of the Mekong to India and China. Ideas and scripts moved with sailors and monks. Scholars call it Indianization. Sanskrit inscriptions appear, Hindu and Buddhist images spread. Funan ruled early maritime routes. Finds at Oceo reveal a networked port. Later, Chenla rose inland and set new centers. By the late 8th century, the land was divided. Texts speak of water Chenla and land Chenla. Modern scholars warn this split may be too neat. A figure then steps out from the hill country. Around 802, Jayawarman II makes a claim. On Phnom Kulen, he is named Universal Sovereign. An inscription of 1052 retells that founding right. The Devaraja, the god-king cult, is born. A king and a deity are bound in one role. A capital needs a body as well as a soul. Jayawarman II and his heirs test sites. Haraharalaya becomes an early seat of power. Temples in brick and laterite rise. Praco and Bakong under Indravarman I show a plan. Religious focus pairs with a bold work in earth and water. Here the Angkor idea sets. Berets and canals frame the plain. They hold monsoon water and feed rice. Yasowarman I founds Yasodarapura near Phnom Bakung. The first true Angkor takes shape. Temple mountains mirror sacred peaks. The system is simple in aim and vast in scope. Slow water, share it, turn it into grain. Grain becomes labor, labor becomes stone. Each king builds on the last. Temples mark lineage. Water marks control. The model works, but there is a problem. Power scales, and so must the city. In the early 12th century, a king sets a new standard. Suryavarman II orders Angkor Wat. It is dedicated to Vishnu. Its galleries hold epics in stone. Perfection seems a royal duty and a state claim. The empire expands in land and art. The city tightens its weave of canals and roads. The West Beret stands like an inland sea. It measures 8 by just over 2 kilometers. Not a lake for show, but a reservoir in a system. Here, ambition becomes engineering. Then war strikes from the east. Chams attack and are later repelled. A new king rises from the crisis. Jayawarman VII takes the throne. He is a Mahayana Buddhist. He envisions a healed and ordered realm. He builds Angkor Thom, a walled city. At its heart stands the Bayan. Faces gaze out from its towers. He lays roads and bridges across the land. He installs hospitals aimed at care and merit. Stone becomes service and statement. This is Angkor's high tide. Population swells in the plain around the temples. Fields and ponds fill every workable space. From the air in the 1950s, patterns appear, but trees still hide the full picture. Decades later, lasers cut through leaves. LiDAR maps change what we think we see. Under the canopy, a mega city appears. It spreads over more than 1,000 square kilometers. Grids of mounds hint at neighborhoods. Causeways stitch nodes to nodes. Canals run like veins, bent to slight slopes. This is not an island of temples in green. It is an urban landscape fused to water. Hydraulic engineering is the city's skeleton. The system buffers monsoon pulses. It stores wet season surplus for the dry. It feeds intensive rice cycles. If it holds, the city lives. If it fails, the city chokes. Sediment cores in old berets tell a slow tale. Layers show heavy erosion in late phases. Forests thin to feed kilns and build. When trees go, soil travels. Canals silt. Water slows in the wrong places. Maintenance must rise to match the load. But labor is not infinite, even for a god-king. Royal works also depend on faith and gifts. Who pays when patronage shifts? There is another force at work. Beliefs evolve across the 13th and 14th centuries. Theravada Buddhism comes from the West and from Sri Lanka. Its focus is different in tone. Kingly cults lose ground to new monastic forms. Old images are recut or set aside. Iconoclasm is not uniform, but it is visible. Faces are changed, hands reshaped, new marks cut. A gentle shift in doctrine can strain old ties. Temples once tied to a royal cult lose central role. Civic labor may turn from state works to local sangha. The upkeep burden meets a thinning purse. Now stack risk on risk. In tree rings, a harsh signal appears. The 14th and early 15th centuries see deep droughts. Dry years bite into rice and reservoirs. Then monsoons return with force. Floods rip at embankments and weirs. A system built to smooth variance meets extremes. It can flex within bounds, but those bounds shift. Breaks in one canal send surges down the line. Add neighbors pressing from the west. Ayutthaya rises and probes Khmer frontiers. Chronicles speak of raids and a sack. The wall of Angkor Thom is a late bulwark. It is stone proof of a need for defense, but walls also trap a city in place. Pressure outside meets problems inside. Water clogs or tears. Patronage thins. War costs rise. The metropolis still functions for a time. Zhou Deguan's visit, a century earlier, showed order. Markets worked, rituals moved, and life was rich. But the balance slides. And this is where everything changes. Theravada temples spread across the plain. Monks in saffron inhabit older compounds. The royal Devaraja cult fades from view. Angkor is still sacred, but the court looks outward. Trade winds and river routes promise new wealth. The south offers access and a buffer from raids. Tree ring data show a punishing drought run. Then storms follow and undo repairs. Fields crack, then flood, then crack again. In the berets, silt stacks like pages in a ledger. It records rising erosion and stressed upkeep. The big machine needs constant tending. Labor shifts toward local needs and new rights. Devices age. Canal beds lift with sand and clay. Evidence for battles inside Angkor is thin. But scars exist in small finds and later fort works. The thread is clear, even if the battlefield is not. The date that looms in many books is 1431. Ayutthaya is said to have sacked Angkor. Some treat it as the fatal strike. Yet the ground tells a longer story. Occupation thins in stages, not in one night. The move south begins before and continues after. New capitals emerge downriver. Longvik, then Udom, then Phnom Penh take the court. The Mekong and Tonle Sap tie them to sea trade. Angkor Wat does not die. Theravada monks keep vigil and sweep its steps. The jungle pushes, but faith holds a thread. What, then, broke the city's spine? It was not a single cause or a sudden. It was the sum of stress across linked systems. Climate hit a tight hydraulic network. Belief shifted the flow of labor and gifts. War and rivalry pressed a strained frontier. Together they made the center less viable. The empire changed shape to survive. The court left the forest plain to hug the rivers. No one expected what happened next. Stand in a dry canal north of Angkor Wat. The banks are high and grassed over. A channel that once sang is mute. Now scroll the timeline to the fateful year. Texts say 1431 and Siamese sack. Archaeology points to a retreat in slow motion. Both can be true in part. A raid can shock a court. But a shock lands hardest on a brittle frame. Litter and sediment cores frame that brittleness. A megacity fused to water fed its own scale. That fusion locked it to constant care. Droughts shrank the buffer that care relied on. Floods then tore through where silt had risen. Patronage and policy were also in flux. At the same time, the Delta called. Routes to maritime trade shifted value south. New towns promised safety and income. The key insight is not a missing army or plague. It is a system at its limit, clipped by extremes. Its rulers chose a new center rather than a new fix. That is the pivot. Angkor ceased to be a political heart. It remained a sacred body. The silence of the canals is the answer to the hook. Mastery of water can fail when the water changes. And when it fails, power must move. Angkor teaches a hard rule of scale. Complex systems win until their edge is reached. At the edge, redundancy and flexibility decide fate. The Khmer built redundancy in stone and clay. Yet redundancy eroded with forests and funds. Upkeep lagged as climate pushed new extremes. Belief and governance steer repair as much as tools do. Shift the patron, and crews disperse. Shift the creed, and priorities change. Better maps build better stories. Litter, cores, and inscriptions tie evidence to time. They cut myths down to a chain of causes. For any city, the lesson is simple. Invest in slack and many paths to supply. Anchor power to people, not only to place. Dawn spills over Angkor Wat. A monk sweeps the steps. Slow and steady, the jungle breathes at the moat's edge. Above, invisible lasers once traced the buried grid. On the ground, a canal curves to a dry end. It holds the line of a vanished current. South, river towns hum with boats and silted light. That is where the court went, and where trade pulled. Angkor's stone stayed, and the culture endured. The empire ended, yet the people did not vanish. Faces in the bayon still watch the plain. They watch a world that learned to move when water would not. They watch a world that learned to move when water would not.